about being an analyst. Analyst is not like you are coming with like inventing the wheel, but you have to be really good at organizing the data. In this case, we have a sample data, but in real life, you have so much variables that you have to put them together in really good, clean, that can represent the others. That's what makes you an analyst. Means you have to be able to organize things. You drive, you know what you're talking about. You figure out what is missing in the analysis, what you're going to do. So first things you have to figure out what market, what product I'm talking about. So the question says, so from the question, what happened to the equilibrium price and the equilibrium quantity for DVD rental, not buying, not selling, it's rental. I'm renting DVDs. So that's, I just start, remember, I will just start from point A with the market at the equilibrium at price P1, Q1 for rental, DVD rental. So I'll just go, okay, I'm going to do this. Remember that this two columns goes together. I have the price, I have quantity, I have supply for rentals, I have the demand for rentals, I have the equilibrium at P0, Q0, I have A. I did the first step. And then I would do rental, DVD, rentals. I know what I'm talking about. That's my market. Then I go to step number 2. What happened? I have to understand from this what happened. So I have the price of movie theater tickets increases and wages paid to DVD rentals store clerk increases. There are 2 variables here. So it means I have to do this twice. So we have 2 variables here. The first one is that we have the movie theater ticket increases. That will do the first one. So the movie tickets for a movies goes up. How that is important for me to know? Why do I have to know the price of the movie theater tickets when I'm trying to study the DVD rentals? Why do you think guys have to know this information? What is the relationship between the 2 products?
When the price of the movie theater tickets increase, then
No, just just tell me what is the relationship first between the relationship between the theater movies and the rentals?
People choose or that one or that one.
So exactly, but you have to be above, brother. You have now you are economist. You have to talk the language, the jargon. You say they are substitute. What you said is correct, but just to be a little bit fancy, he says, okay, the movie rentals and the movie theaters are substitute. I can watch a movie at home using DVD, or I can go to the movie theater. We call it substitute effect. So now, there are 2 substitutes, so I have to know what is the relationship between the 2. So if the price of one goes up, the demand for the other goes up. So if the price of the tickets goes up, means the demand for rentals will go up. So I have to shift the demand curve to the right. The demand, if the price of the movie theater goes up, so that's the new equilibrium at B. So the price will go up. The first step will say, okay, this is one effect. So the price, then I have another variable. So now I have the store clerk for the rental DVDs go up. What is the relationship between the wages of a product and the product and the market of the product? How that will affect it? So now the step number 2, I have another variable, which is the wages going up. So that we call it the cost of inputs goes up. Cost of running the store is going up. Does it affect the supply or demand? Does it affect the people who buy in renting DVDs or people who are owning the store? So when you tell me you're talking about the cost, yes, anybody? Okay. So I'm going to share with you this slide again one more time so I can just go back and see. So anytime you're talking about the cost, you're talking about supply. So it's cost, yes, for the owners. It goes for the owners. Okay. So now remember, Now we have two situations. We have the situation number one that increases the demand, which is a substitute effect. And the second effect, which is cost of production or of running a store, will affect the supply, means will decrease the supply. So the problem is that we have both of them are moving at the same time. You remember when I say when I have two of them are moving at the same time? We have to have three graphs because we have one decreases the supply and one increasing the demand. To understand all this stuff, I have to have three graphs that will help me come up with the answer. And then why? Because I don't know how much is the shift. The first one, second one, and third one. The price, quantity, price, quantity. So we have supply, demand, supply, demand. Anytime you have both are moving, you have to have three graphs. Now I just change. So one says increase of demand and one says decrease in supply. Now I have to do, if they move at the same size, so we have the supply curve will move to the left. So we have the equilibrium here. And the demand will increase with the same size. So the price will go up, the quantity stays the same. That's one thing. So the price goes up, the quantity equilibrium stays the same. Now we have to do the opposite things. What if the supply just decreases by a little bit, but the demand increases a lot? So yeah, we move from A to B. So the price goes up, the quantity goes up. So price equilibrium goes up, quantity equilibrium goes up. Now we have the opposite of this. What if the supply curve decreases a lot, but the demand increases by just a little bit? So we'll move from A to B. So the price goes up and the quantity goes down. So the one things they have in common here, all the things that the rental price will go up. But we don't know what happened to number of DVDs will be rented in this situation. So you have to have three cases to analyze this situation. Okay, so you can do this at home again. And if you need me to try it one more time later, I can do that. Just remember, in this case, not one things are moving, it's two things moving at the same time. One, the substitute effect. The second, which is cost of renting the or the cost of running the store, the wages. Could be a rent, it could be wages. This affect the supply. This one affect the demand. So this one has three situations. It means I have to do this twice. The first, three times. So at the end, I will have the case when the demand increases and supply decreases, but by how much? That's the question. Your outcome will be the price will go up and the quantity equilibrium is question mark, because we have to know how much is the shift. Is that shifting by the same amount or more? Okay. Now, we're gonna talk about, so please, if you have a question, let me know before I move on to the next thing. So now we're going to talk about consumer surplus and producer surplus. That will explain why we say the market is efficient. You hear this a lot. Market is efficient. What does that mean? Means that at the equilibrium we have the maximum surplus. When you buy something, the reason you buy it is you have to benefit some from that things that you buy. So we're going to talk about consumer surplus. And before let me just clear this first. So the first thing to understand consumer surplus, there are two things that goes at the same time when you're trying to buy something. We'll just come back to this in 1 second. So when you're trying to buy something, you go in the store, you're not just going like you close your eyes and you go to buy stuff. That's not how it works in real life. I think you might agree with me when I give you the example. So when you're looking at the store, you are in front of the store, you see something you like, your product A you like. The second thing that comes to your mind when you like something, what do you think will be the price? How much this freaking things will cost me to buy it? Now, before you see the price, you have price in mind. How much you are willing to pay. So remember, we define the demand as willing and able to pay. You like the product. Now you are asking yourself, am I willing to pay? Am I able to pay this price or not? So every time you see a product, you see sunglasses, you see like shoes, you see anything you see, you have a price in mind. You see what is called willing to pay. How much you are willing to pay for the product. So you have a price in mind, willing to pay. Now you go inside the store. What you're gonna do? You look at the tag. How much is the market price? Your decision depends on the difference between willing to pay and the market price. I'm not. If I think like let's say glass. I saw glass I like. I think this glass is worth $20. The decision to buy it or not depends of how much is in the tag of the glass. If it says, what do you think? If it's the price is $15, I will buy it because I think I'm going to get a good deal because I think it's worth 20, but I'm just paying 15. So this is called consumer surplus. The difference between how much you are willing to pay and the market price. How much you are willing to pay is greater than market price, you have a consumer surplus. What if I went down, I say, okay, this is worth 20, and I went inside, I found out the glass is worth $30. I'm not going to buy it because they charge more than I think it's worth. I have no consumer surplus. I have a negative consumer surplus. So every time you buy the product, you are willing to pay it's greater than the market price. So that we call it consumer surplus. Consumer surplus is the difference between willing to pay minus the price. If it's positive, you're gonna buy the product. If it's negative, you're not gonna buy it. Many times you say, oh, this is too, it is overpriced. It's overpriced for you, not for everybody, but it's overpriced for you because you think it's not worth that much. Okay? So how much willing to pay for a pair of jeans and the price of the jeans makes the difference. So if the price in the market is below what you're willing to pay, you will buy it. But if it's above, you will not going to buy it. So the consumer surplus is the difference between the price that you are willing to pay and the market price actually paid for the product. Now, but it's the total surplus. You are not the only one buying the product. So a lot of people are buying the same product. So we want to know what is the total surplus. So we add every person. So we have a person number one. So I'll give you an example so you can see how that works in real life. So we have a person number one, person number two, person number three, person number four are buying the same product. Let's say sneakers, shoes. The first things we have to know is how much these people are willing to pay. So the person says, I'm going to buy these shoes if they are $50. Jordans. The person say, I'm going to pay 60. They don't know the price yet. The person is 70 and 80. Okay, we adjust the situation. But the price in the market for this pair of shoes, this kind of shoes, is $70. Do you think the first person will buy the shoes? Definitely not, because he thinks the shoes are worth 50 and the price 70. The second person will not buy them because they think it's worth 60 and the owner is asking 70. The third person, he might buy them. He thinks it's 70 and he wants them and the price is 70. It's fine. The third person, he thinks it's worth 80. Thinks these sneakers are worth 80 and the price is 70, will buy it. So now, if I look at this person has no market surplus, He's not going to buy them. That's 0. The second person is nothing. The third person will buy them. It's 0. And the fourth person, he's coming with the surplus of 10 because he thinks he's worth 80 and is paying 70. How many people, if I have this case, how many people will buy the product? It's 2 people, the person number 3 and person number 4. The other ones, they will not buy them because they think it's worthless. Now, let's go back and then explain to you how the total surplus in a market will be calculated. Just so I can make the calculations more clear, I'm going to change the prices. So I have a person number 1, person number 2, person number 3, person number 4, and person number 5. First, I have to know how much are willing to pay. That's how much is the market price, and the surplus for each person. So we're trying to buy whatever it's like, let's say book. Okay, so the first one, he's willing to pay for this book $20, $30, $40. I'm just making numbers up, and $60. And the market price will be the same for all of them. You cannot charge one price for each one of them. And perfect competition, we say the market is deciding the price. It's the same price for everyone. So if the price is, let's say, 40, 40, 40, 40, 40. So this person has negative surplus. He's not going to buy the product. This person has willing to pay 30 and the price is this. It's a negative surplus, nothing. This one has, he thinks he's worth 40 and he pays 40. The surplus is 0. This person, he thinks the product is worth 50 and the price is it's 50 and the price is 40. That's 10 units of surplus and 20. So if I want to know what is the total surplus for the market, I just add all this stuff. The total will be nothing, 0 plus 10 plus 20. That will be 30. I will sell 3 products and the total surplus will be 30 units. Okay, that's the consumer surplus. The producer surplus is just how much. So you can see when I build the demand curve, here's the demand curve and the price here. This rectangular, triangle, sorry, in yellow. If I add all the consumer surplus, this is the total surplus for consumers. So from the price with demand curve, the price line, that's called the total consumer surplus. If I add all the consumer surpluses for people, so what does that mean? Just to understand this, I have how many units I sold in this case. I sold 40 units at the price of 35. It could be one person bought all the 400 units. It could be 400 people, each one bought one. What I know is that the quantity sold is 40 and the price is 35. If I add somebody who is willing to pay, let's say somebody is willing to pay 80. His consumer surplus is the difference between 80 and 35. Somebody is willing to pay 60. That's the difference of surplus. Somebody is willing to pay 40. That's the surplus. If I add all the surpluses, that goes with total surpluses, is just calculating the area, the yellow area. Let's say the base times the height divided by 2. So it'll be just doing this. This is the height, which is the difference between 100 and, so the height is from here to here, which is 100 minus 35, times the base, which is 400, divided by 2. So that's the total consumer surplus. So every time you will know, like if I have the demand curve, I want to know what is the total consumer surplus, I have to find first the price and quantity, and this is consumer surplus. So also, this is the good things you know. What happens if the price went down? So you can see why the market is efficient. So if the price went down to 30, what do you think happened to the consumer surplus? So the price would go down here, let's say 500. So the consumer surplus will be all this stuff. So the price goes down, the consumer surplus increases. So the more the price goes down, the more benefits. This is good for consumers. Okay. So if the price goes up, you see what happened every time the company increases the price. What happened to the consumer surplus goes down. So we are happier as consumers to have a lower price because we get more happy. So if we increase the price from 35 to 60, you see the consumer surplus is only this yellow area. The price going up decreases consumer surplus. Everything else equal. The price goes down, increases the consumer surplus. The producer surplus is basically just economic profit, the price minus your cost. That's producer surplus. So the only time a company is the same things like a consumer. What motivates people, it's the same things motivate the producers. You have incentive to produce. So consumers are we call it utility, happiness, that motivates you to buy things. The happier you are, the more stuff you buy. Producers have motivation that make a profit. So we have incentives. So you cannot have a company that makes a product and sell it for less than the cost. If the price is $5, you cannot make a product for $6 and sell it for $5 because you don't know profit. So the surplus for the company to produce a good, the price has to be greater than the cost. That's the difference between the price and the cost is called producer surplus. So the producer surplus, here you have the price and you have the supply curve. This orange or pink color is called producer surplus. See, it's the opposite direction for, look, if we increase the price, the producer surplus goes up. Means they are happier, they get more profit. But we are less happier as consumers because the consumer surplus, when the producer surplus increases, happens to the consumer. So let me just see why this pen isn't working again. So if the price goes up, the producer's surplus goes up. But where this came from, this is extra benefit. We take it out from the consumers. So the companies will be happy with increasing the price, but the consumers will not be. You will see when we put them together. But if the price goes down, what happened to the producer surplus goes down because the consumers will benefit, will have extra benefit from the price going down. So like winners and losers in the market, consumers and producers always in contradiction. One is fighting for more consumer surplus, plus means happier, looking for cheaper product. The producers are looking more for profit and they're trying to raise the prices. And that's what brings two forces that bring the market to equilibrium. You can see market at equilibrium, you have the price, you have consumer surplus above and the producer. So every time you move the price, you're taking from one and giving to the other. See? So if you increase the price, look what happened to the producer surplus will increase, but the consumer surplus is getting hammered. It's the same thing when we decrease the price, the consumers are happy because they will get more consumer surplus, and that's how it works. Okay? So, but this is what we call market efficiency. When somebody says in economic, market is efficient, what does that mean? Market is efficient. So first you have what is called social surplus. As society, what is the benefit from exchanging products in the market? When we do the exchange, there are two things. We have consumer surplus plus producer surplus. The market creates surpluses for both consumers and producers. And the total of it, which is the big triangle, is what the society benefits from exchanging value in the market. The market facilitates the exchange, create consumer surplus and producer surplus. It's good for society. But the market is efficient because it's the only point that gives us maximum surplus. For society as a whole, the maximum point is right here at exchange. There is no other point in the graphs that give us this bigger triangle. The market is efficient because it gives us the maximum surplus, social surplus. We don't know. It does not mean that. So, as the market is efficient, it does not mean that benefits consumers or producers. It could be the whole. You might have a case where you have the whole surplus goes to producers. You might have like the whole the whole surplus goes to consumers. But at the end, what I'm trying to say, if we add them together, so it could be, for example, let's total market surplus is 10, which is a total surplus. 5 goes to consumers and 5 goes to producers. The total is 10. It could be 2 and 8. It could be 1 and 9. It could be all going to the producers, 10. You have no consumer surplus. When you have this case, which is, that's why when you have one company selling the product, the benefit, they take all the benefit from the market. But what matters is that you have the maximum surplus. So the market is efficient because at the equilibrium, we have the maximum benefit for society, creates the maximum surplus. Okay. So what time it is right now? So let's take, let's take a 10 minutes break because we started at 9, and we're just going to take a 10 minutes break and we come back and talk about the role of the government. So far we talked without just the market, without government involved. What happens when governments get involved in the market? I'm going to talk about that when we're talking about price ceiling and price floor. Okay.